Good evening, everybody. It's Mr. First Down, a.k.a. Sam Dean, here with the birthday boy, Bradley Mangold. He's growing up in front of our eyes, everybody. He's growing up in front of our eyes. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. The Titans are in shambles. But we don't have to talk about that. But we will. We will.
That's why we're here.
How are you doing this evening, sir?
Not too bad. Ready to talk about this
week.
Fire. It's been a week of, everybody should be talking about the number one pick, but we're talking about the circus.
It's finally calmed down today with the GM interviews. It finally did. Before a while there, I was like, I went off on Twitter. I was like, oh my God, stop it. That's enough. I've had enough. Stop it. It's a thing. So, I mean, what can you really do? But anyway, so I guess we'll start with the news that dropped Tuesday. Ran Carthon was given his walking papers. And Brad, you and I talked off air that you couldn't really go anywhere without anybody saying, like, well, somebody's going to get fired this year. Somebody's going to get fired. And we said it could be Callahan, it could be Carthon. And everybody seemed to be okay with that. And then it actually happened. And you would have thought I slapped somebody's mom. Like, it was crazy. It was crazy. Comment sections, people following narratives, people that have no basis for following some of the things they've said. And I'm not going to get into it because some of it was really foul, like really foul. And just not smart things to think about or say. I don't even know how to break it down to you. But your thoughts on Ran Carthon given his walking papers, and don't strain your voice.
Well, for the boys and girls out there, and the women and the men, I'm just gonna go through it real quick. So the general manager's job, he leads the scouting department, being responsible, handling free agent transactions, trade, contract negotiations, players, coaches, etc. So let's start with the first one, players, right? Free agency hit. You did a good job. Lord Cushenberry, Snead, Diggs. Adams was not good. I mean, he's been injury prone and, just bounced around in a lot of teams. Diggs gets injured. Snead got injured. Cushenberry got injured. It happens. DeAndre Hopkins trade was a good trade. He's 32 at the time. You're not going to make the playoffs. So we had to get something for him. The Ernest Jones trade, I didn't like. I liked Ernest Jones, but I get why we did it. But Jerome Baker's been kind of hit and miss so far. But yeah, you and me talked about it. I said it last week. Someone will get fired, and here it is, Ran Carthon. I don't know. You can probably help me clear this up because I live in Ohio. I don't follow a lot of people, but I know watching A to Z, they kept bouncing around like who really drafted Will Levis? Was it Frable? Was it Ran? I still think it was Ran.
Ran Carthon drafted.
I think that's the more reason why he got fired. That's the top of the list. He drafted Will Levis, and I say this again: if you're not going to do good in college, your chances of being good in the NFL it's going to be very slim. And he wasn't good at college. He was not good at college. And he fell out of the first round. Everybody's like, oh, I wonder why. We all knew why. He wasn't good. We moved up at 33rd and drafted him. He had his chances. I know it wasn't a great career, but he had his chances. He did what he did at Kentucky. He threw it.
And most of us were patient. Most of us were very patient with him. I remember after Chicago, I was patient. After the Jets came, I was patient with him. I said, look, it's just going to be one of these things. He's just going to have to learn. He never buckled it down. He never did it.
His pocket awareness,
all up here.
Decision making. just every mental part of the game he failed. And I mean, look at Jameis Winston. He was the number 1 overall pick. They can never fix his turnover issues. He has an arm. He can throw touchdowns. But he does the stupid mistakes.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? He can throw so many good passes, and all of a sudden it's like, I can do it. I can fit it in.
Yeah.
You know.
So, and I think, like Colton McDowell was I mean, I haven't seen much from him. But yeah, I got tired watching Will Levis' celebrations because they're cringy. So, yeah, I mean, so that's the good news. We heard Brian Callahan say, I'm going to go get a different quarterback, whoever it is, we'll find out. And now with the new GM coming to town, it's definitely going to happen. Will Levis will either be a backup, practice squad, or maybe even be released or traded. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But 25, going on 26 years old, he had his chances, and that's it. It's over. Will Levis, I mean, hey, it's not like we didn't root for you. We tried, but
we wanted him to succeed. Yeah. We wanted it to happen.
I think 2 or 3 wins in his 2 years tenure at Tennessee. Yeah, not gonna happen. So at least Brian Callahan said, "Hey, I'm willing to give up the play calling duties." So that's growth from a very young head coach of Brian Callahan. So that's good.
If there's anything that we could take away from Brian Callahan is he is very open, he is very honest, sometimes to a fault. And I do not think he's soft. I don't think he's soft.
Now with his dad.
No. He can't afford to be soft.
No.
But he said in his end of year conference, he goes, and that involves evaluation for me too. There's a ton of things I could do better. And he didn't have to admit that, and he offered it freely. So I'll give him full credit. At least when you watch a press conference with him, you actually learn something. Not we need to coach better, we need to play better. If you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So Ran Carthon gets fired Tuesday, rather unceremoniously, not parting of the ways or anything like that. They fired him, and come to find out that they took some responsibilities from him this year and whatnot. And everybody is just going off wild theories and everything else. But let's just say it. He probably just wasn't that qualified, or he wasn't that good. Maybe we don't know if he made promises to Amy. We know he outmaneuvered Vrabel and got him fired. That's part of it. I learned that from the Just Fans podcast, Texans podcast. I was there talking to John McClain, acclaimed reporter, and he said Ran Carthon got him fired. Certainty. And that's embarrassing, no matter what you say. But has to definitely get with Jimmy Johnson, veteran coach, and learn more about the game of coaching. Absolutely. And I think that's what's going to happen. So Chad Brinker gets put in charge, and he gets final say. Now, they clarified that to say he would break the ties or anything like that. So it doesn't necessarily mean he's just going to lord over everybody and do it. I think everybody had it in their heads because they did not do themselves a service. The optics were very bad this week. They were very bad. That happened. But I will have to say, as many times as you and I have complained about not knowing who's in charge and hearing Rand say collaboration 18 times talking to people when he did talk to them because he avoided talking to anybody. He also had an embarrassing interview in the Tennessean that made 0 sense. Something was going on. Okay. It's probably never going to be revealed until somebody writes a book about it a decade from now.
Right.
But let's not be silly here. Something was going on. And it happened. And it stinks that we don't get to know. Right. I would love it. I would love it if somebody would just come out and say it. Just say, yeah, he did this or he did that and we didn't like it and whatever. So that's just how it's going to be. And I think this is just kind of the end of the subject, Matt. We're going to move on. Like we have no choice. We have to move on. But
Again.
You and I have talked about yes, again. Enter one Chad Brinker, the head of football operations. I think it had a lot to do with the owner. That usually happens. I don't think so, Scott. Something was going on with him. There were rumors. Paul Koharski broke it down that there were things that he did that were not congruent. And that'll get you there was questions about a work ethic there. That's what it said. So them's the berries. I don't know how else to say it.
Well, I mean, what gets me frustrated with Amy Adams is I'm not doubting her love for the Titans. I know she loves the Titans. But what gets me irritated is just we're going back 3 years now. She gives John Robinson all this power. And she gives it to John. And what does John do? He obviously makes the worst trade in Titans history, gives Ray
a great first 3 years, a terrible second 3 years.
So like he started off good, and then he's thinking, okay, I can make this team like the New England Patriots. I can just trade AJ Brown and replace him. No. Learn out the hard way, very, very hard no. And then, John Robinson gets fired. Now Mike Vrabel is hired with a new GM who didn't hire him. Amy's like, okay, you two can just work it out, whatever. Vrabel's inherited a playoff team. Then in his last 2 years, the team was bad because John Robinson did not build a good team. So Vrabel's stuck with these players that he didn't want or didn't choose. So typically, every time a new GM comes in, he's gonna come in and think, okay, this is not the head coach I hired. This ain't the quarterback I drafted. Blah 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 blah. So on and so forth. So Vrabel got fired, which at the time,
Scott, listen, you can take those bitter Patriot tears and put them somewhere else. Okay?
So basically, I think Rand was trying to do what I'm gonna do what San Francisco did. Look at Brock Purdy now. He didn't have a great season because Samuel got injured. Ayuk got injured. George Kittle still balled, but he's in the 30s now. Christian McCaffrey, horrific season due to injuries. And Brock Purdy's, still had a good offensive line, but it wasn't the same without his weapons. It shows why Brock Purdy's good. He's good because he's the system quarterback. That's what he's trying to think.
You too.
I think that's what he was trying to do with Will Levis, is just trying hey, let's just give him some weapons, get a good offensive line. Maybe he'll be good. Make him a product of the system. But obviously, the Titans are not the 49ers. Same thing to John Robinson. The Titans are not the Patriots. It's not going to happen no matter what you do. I mean, you just need a GM that's just gutsy. Goes out there and makes some good gutsy decisions and just hopefully it comes out right. And the only part I get mad at Amy about, she gave John Robinson all the power. I didn't agree with that. She gave Rand the extension.
Well, okay, but we have to be clear though. We have to be clear though. A lot of NFL teams run that way. The GM runs the show. For better or worse. And
so that's how I know. With
vice president was the worst thing.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, but that just gets me. I'm not saying Amy doesn't know football. She probably knows a little bit, but
knows a bit.
Yeah, I mean, but now I think I know we're not paying John Robinson anymore, but I know we're still paying Mike Vrabel. We're gonna be paying Ran Carthon, and now you got a new GM.
Last year for Mike Vrabel, so it's done.
That's good. Yeah. So then, but now here's the bad news: new GM's gonna come in, and he's like, okay, we know he's gonna keep Brian Callahan under surveillance because that's not the head coach he brought in. Unless Brinker and Amy overpowers them for that, we'll see what happens with that. But Brian Callahan,
I don't know. No, I think they're going to go forward with Callahan. I think
he'll stay, but he can't have a bad year again.
No, he can't. He's got to show significant improvement. Yeah. But I will say this as far as Brinker goes. Mathematics degree. From Stanford, I think. It's MIT or Stanford. I can't remember. One of the two. That's pretty smart. 13 years with the Packers. Pretty successful franchise. And from everything, yes, from everything I've read, that's his mission. He is going to turn this thing into. Now they fired a lot of people. They fired people that have been there forever. And sometimes I think that's what you need. You got to have a culture shock, especially when a season like that happens. So as far as us wondering, with Rand saying collaborative effort all the time, we had nobody to point the finger at. And now you have somebody to point the finger at if something goes well or something goes wrong. So there is that. And I mean, what choice do we have? You know, he's in charge. That's just how it is. That can take over as the new GM. Everybody thought it was going to be Brinker Scott, but apparently he's picking the new GM and running. He's just going to run the show, apparently. And the GM is going to do the recruiting and everything else. Everybody said this job would be unattractive, but there are some big names on that GM list. They're coming in to do it, and they're not going to do it if they think it's whatever. But my favorite
Browns.
Ian Rappaport had this. Yeah, exactly.
Don't draft
her. The Titans have requested permission to speak with Packers VP of Player Personnel. Remember, Brinker is from Packers country. John Eric Sullivan for their GM job. Sullivan is very well regarded in NFL circles, was a former colleague of Chad Brinker, the Titans president of football of operations. So I think that would probably be our guy. Would probably be our guy. And he's up and coming. He could probably get a job tomorrow if he wanted to.
Yeah.
If he's very well regarded. If he comes here, then the GM job is not unattractive. That's the only thing I can really say to that. So, Titans fans, I would implore you to drop this whole why was Rand fired, this and that, blah, blah, blah. If it's that upsetting, just, I don't know, don't root for the team, I guess, if it's that upsetting to you or whatnot.
I think Rand was fired because of Levis draft pick. That's my
that's
my number one reason.
I think he made promises and he didn't cash it. He was writing checks that he couldn't cash, whatever that saying is. I think that's what happened to him. He said, Amy, I'm going to do all these things, and it didn't come to fruition. But we're approaching the 20-minute mark, so we have to go ahead and tip our caps to the greatest to ever do it, Mike Keith, everybody. Mike Keith moving back home to Knoxville. This one made me teary-eyed. 27 years he has been the play-by-play guy. He is fantastic. He is many people consider him Titans Nation, pretty much, the best ambassador for the team that ever was. Bob Kessling, who was the voice of the Vols for so long, got sick and said he was stepping down. So all of us knew who was next in line at that point. We knew. And they had, so it was not terribly surprising when he announced it. You just didn't think it was going to come so soon. Mike doesn't like him being the focus of anything, so he just wanted to get it done and go. But he had to know how. Yeah, look, he held down this position for an incredibly long time and is very well respected in the league and very well respected upon announcing. He is so well respected that he is entering the Titan Ring of Honor this year without question. That's what Amy said immediately. So, and it's well deserved for him. I'm glad he gets to go back home. I'm just going to miss hearing that voice on Sundays. There was not a lot of people that can pull off a Southern accent and sound super educated and everything. I'm going to miss that. And we should be very patient with whoever they put in there because it's not his fault. This is a guy that's going to get an opportunity of a lifetime, and we should let him try to do his thing. He should not try to be Mike Keith. In fact, he should know not to try to be Mike Keith.
Right.
Be natural, and it'll come your way. So, hats off to Mike Keith, the best to ever do it, as far as I'm concerned. And I look forward to who the new guy is, and we're going to be patient with him because he's got to do all the shows and everything else. So, happy for the volunteer fans. At least I get to still hear his voice in my home state every Saturday instead of Sunday. So there's that. So good for Mike. I wish him nothing but the best. Now, we got through the debacle that was Tuesday, and then Mike Keith left. This sandwich-filled week of just bad. GM interviews happened, and I noticed the dynamic shifted. So that made me feel a lot better. So the only way that people forget.
What's up,
I don't have that kind of voice, bud. There's a guy here called Kevin Ingram. If you want to look him up on YouTube, he's very good. He was on the morning radio show for the sports station for the longest time. He went to Belmont after that show was canceled, and he is a very good radio announcer. There's a guy named Jonathan Hutton that used to be on the afternoon show with Paul Kaharski and Chad Withrow.
I'll take Robert De Niro.
Oh yeah, he's going out. Yeah, he's throwing the ball. Yeah. So those were two in-state guys. I don't know how that job really goes about or whatnot, but it's the big leagues and you get paid well for it. So, get ready for that. Excuse me.
I like his interviews. He always did good interviews too.
He always did very good interviews. So you have to this is more than just a play-by-play announcer guy. This is you are the most visible person of the Titans. So that's the job you're going to do. Kevin Ingram can do that. Jonathan Hutton can do that. So we'll see who it is. And boy, man, good luck to whoever it is.
A lot of changes.
Let's put it to you this way. If Kevin Ingram gets that job, I will have no question. It'll be perfectly fine every way, shape. I have that much confidence in Ingram. I'll take it. I'll take it 100%. So that's done. GM interviews are happening. Eric Dimitrioff, who I've always kind of enjoyed, is kind of a big name floating around. Tyrese McKenzie, which everybody decided to poo-poo on, but they forget that he's had good drafts. And like anything, GMs are all about fit. It's like a player. It's got to fit, right? And he's worked with Chad and Callahan before, and there is a lot of freedom to somebody you've worked with before because they can come in day one and go, I know exactly what you want. I know exactly what you're looking for. I can get it for you. Instead of, having to teach somebody. It's fine to do it either way. I'm just letting you know. Thank you all. I sound like a watery fish most of the time. That's how I feel anyway. So I would be too into it. Horrible call. Like I would be the most unprofessional person ever. I'd have fines waiting in my mailbox by the time I got home. I get into it. I couldn't be the GM and I couldn't be the play-by-play announcer. I'd love players too much. Can't do it.
Right.
Can't.
It makes you have to like NWI.
Oh, God. And there's NWI with a touchdown. I get to talk about NWI. Who, by the way, I got mistreated on Twitter because I dare say they're moving on from him this season. And I said, you could draft somebody better. And people were like, how dare you, sir? How dare you talk about the great NWI? I can't wait.
I think it was like Titans Wire. Like, had like stats of like how everybody played this season. I'm like, yeah, he had 9 touchdowns. We had like 475 yards receiving. It's not elite. Come on. That's why I flipped out on Buck Rising. He said, I'll still take NWI with Devontae Adams and CD Lamb. I'm like, what? But Titans fans, we're not getting T. Higgins. He's staying in Cincinnati. He's gonna.
I will be very shocked if he leaves. I will be very shocked if he leaves Cincinnati. I'll be very shocked. I'll be very shocked.
I wouldn't leave Cincinnati either if I had Joe Burrow throwing me the football.
They need to build a statue. If he gets a statue before Eddie George, I'm gonna flip. I will absolutely lose my mind. I will tear down that statue. I will drive my blue RAV4 out there and say absolutely not. And I will tighten up that chain around that statue's neck and yank it right off. I have no qualms about it. Zero. NWI is gone.
The interesting part is like I'm watching the mock drafts, and some of them say we should draft Travis Hunter. I'm like, no. I think Travis Hunter's good. What would he do with Tennessee though? I don't see him evolving this team into something good. We need so much more than just a Travis Hunter. That's what I'm basically saying.
We were talking. I think, before we were on here, we talked about this. Chad Brinker seems like the guy that's going to trade, and I think that's a good idea.
So the Giants.
If you trade with the Raiders, you're picking fourth. You can still get the edge rusher you want. If you're trading with the Browns, you're picking second. You can.
Carter. A dual card, my fault. He went off last night with one arm.
The Titans would be more likely to trade out of one than draft Hunter. Oh, yeah. Yes, 100%.
I agree.
100%.
Better.
Yeah, like I would.
Not because Hunter's not good. We have too much more to fix.
What would your price be? What would your price be for that pick? Let's say it was Cleveland picking second. Let's say Cleveland.
I think you could trade him to the Giants. I think you can trade with the Giants. The problem is
what? First, second, third. I'll take your first, second, third, and your first next year. That's how I see it. That's the price.
They could. The problem is, like, even though they're first round draft picks, Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders, they're first round prospects.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a C.J. Stroud, Caleb Williams prospects.
But they gotta have it. They gotta have it.
True, but they're just not. That's the sad part. It's gonna take a lot to. I mean,
the Giants.
Shadur Sanders. I mean, either one. They both have. Yeah, if you go to the Giants, hey, you got Malik Neighbors. If you go to the Raiders, hey, you got Brock Bowers. So at least have
the Giants. The Giants make a lot of sense, but I think the Raiders above all else. I think.
Raiders have Tom Brady as their
boy. And he fired a pretty good GM in 1 year in. The guy got you Bowers and some players, and you fired him anyway. And that's mind-blowing to me. But from what I'm reading, he is in charge. He may be a partial owner of the Raiders franchise, but he's in charge. He is in charge. Incredible.
That'd be a good quarterback to learn from.
I suppose so. So we'll see where this tunnel leads us as they continue through their GM interviews. They're going to want to hire that GM very quickly, but I would bet it is the VP from the Packers. I would bet more than anything.
That makes sense.
If you're trying to turn this whole thing into a successful organization, which I'm rooting for you for, Brinker, if you end up watching this, I'm rooting for you to do that. There's been a lot of stuff going on. There's been a lot of stuff going on way too long. If somebody wants to clean house and inject some new life into it, by all means, go for it, baby. And I'll be there in Green Bay for the draft too. So I'll be there in Green Bay watching it happen. And if you trade out of there, I will be extremely happy. So I have no qualms about it. If you think Sanders is the guy, I'll be happy with that too. But I still think you're trading out. You can't fool me.
I have Sanders and Carter. That's if we don't trade out Sanders. If we do trade out, it's a dual Carter.
If we trade out, are we just going to send gifts to each other of us nodding to each other the whole time? Yes.
Well, I mean, I know I'm probably going to put up a poll on our Facebook page about
our Facebook page, which you should totally follow. Fanboys Unleashed.
I think I'm going to make a poll. Simmons or Landry, who do you think is going to get traded? I think Harold Landry is going to be traded.
Oh, he'll be gone. Yeah, no way. No way.
He should be. I mean, he's not bad. He's just not Harold Landry is, you know.
You can't have two hosses in the middle and nobody getting sacked.
Exactly.
That's how we do that. That's just not how we do things. That's not how we do things here, sir. That's not how we do things.
And then I didn't even know NWI was 27 years old. So I think that's why he's going to leave. He's like, I'm 27. I've been here long enough. I've had a decent season with a bad team. I'm going to see what I'm worth in free agency. So I think that's what's going to happen with NWI. But you put him on another team, I don't see him. Unless he goes to, like, Cincinnati, which I don't see that happening because Chase and Higgins and other weapons. But I don't see him in two-tone blue.
Yeah. I think you should draft a wide receiver in the third round that plays better than he does. Yeah.
I mean, like
there, I said it.
I saw mock drafts of I can't pronounce his name, from Arizona wide receiver. I'm not good at pronouncing names, so I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. The wide receiver from the University of Arizona. He's got that Drake London size and wingspan, and he is a good receiver. The problem is, I would not take a receiver in the top 10. I wouldn't, especially if, and this is, I'm saying if, this is like a major 90% if Aaron Rodgers comes here, Devontae Adams is probably going to come with him, because Devontae Adams does not want to play without Aaron Rodgers. He loves Aaron Rodgers that much.
Gee whiz, can you imagine? Oh,
hey, I would take Adams and Ridley. That'd be good, because Ridley's not a number one receiver. He's definitely.
I guess I just have to put up with the ayahuasca chugging guy that doesn't show up during off season or training camp. We don't know actually, but it very well could be. It very well could be.
If Jets hire Vrabel, he will most likely leave. I don't see Rodgers. I don't see those two getting along at all.
No, I don't either. I don't either. That would be.
But I would still take Aaron. I mean, I'll take. There's only one quarterback I would not take over Will Levis. That's Kirk Cousins. That's the only quarterback I would not take over Will Levis. Derek Carr. It's a stretch, because he worked with Brian Callahan in the past, so I would accept that. But like I said, Kirk Cousins is the only one I would not take. That's the only one, because he was bad in Atlanta, and they have Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson.
They said I don't know if you saw, but they said earlier this week that Kirk Cousins is staying in a backup role. They're going to put him as a backup. They're not letting
that much money. Whew.
Yeah, I think it's a lot. I think they realized very quickly that they weren't going to be able to trade with $100 million contract. Just not going to happen. $100 million. That man is a bank robber, as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely a bank robber. So the rough week finally ends. It was very exciting to see people talk about GM jobs that are popping up. Not exciting to see the national media blast us because we fired Ran Carthon, but I'm used to it.
Well, I mean, like I said, you can't finish 3-14 and not suspect a change. Same way with,
I agree.
Mike Vrabel went 6-18 his last 24 games. Like, something was going to happen.
Yeah.
And now 100. It wasn't Vrabel's fault. I didn't blame him. The roster sucked anyway. So,
all right.
But at least we know now. The only good news, Titans fans, is we know that it's a good, 80-90% chance that Levis won't be the starting quarterback next year.
I think it's. I would dare say 100%.
Right. It's gonna be. It's a high number.
Haven't you damaged us enough, sir? That would be me. But he will compete, but he's not gonna win. He's just not.
I mean, I admire his spirit. He actually, like all the questions they asked him, he actually answered them very well. But it's just that mental part of the game is, at his age, being in the NFL, it's not going to be easy. No. Now, if Lewis Riddick became available, hey, I would gladly look at him.
You actually have a pretty good list of GMs coming to interview. So, take your pick there. I still think it's the guy from Packers.
Oh, if I had to pick, I'm picking the Packers.
Yeah.
What in the last 20 – was it 20, 25 years? They've had 3 starting quarterbacks: Favre, Rodgers, Love. That's freaking awesome.
Doesn't that sound lovely? Can you imagine?
Well, like I said, next year's draft class of quarterbacks ain't looking good.
No.
And so not this year, not next year. The year after that, you got Tennessee's quarterback. You have Dylan Raiola from Nebraska, if he can play better. Arch Manning, depending on his college career. And then there's other guys. So we'll see. I mean, Dylan Gabriel and Will Howard, I think, will be a good draft choice, 3rd, 4th round if they're still there. Because Will Howard's done good in these playoffs so far, but he's at Ohio State, who have just so many weapons at wide receiver, tight end, and running back. So it's those situations like, are you good because you're playing? I mean, he is playing good, but he has great weapons like Jeremiah Smith. That dude is going to be a good wide receiver when he comes out. Can't wait. I cannot wait till the draft and hire a GM. I'm very anxious for that GM role. Who's going to take it? We'll see.
We'll find out together. Well, it's a good evening. Happy birthday, Brad.
Thank you.
Make me do the emperor laugh. Thank you for joining us for Fanboys Unleashed. All 30 of you, apparently, pretty consecutively. We appreciate that. We'll take more whenever we can get it. Thank you for liking the Facebook page.
Go Lions! Go Lions! Win it! Win it!
Not on my podcast. Anyway, so thank you for joining us tonight.
I will root for the Titans.
This has been a rough week, an absolutely brutal week as a Titans fan, from the media infighting to the national media telling us how bad we are to losing our play-by-play announcer. It's been a rough one, but we always know there's it's always darkest before the dawn. Anyway,
right, the other side of the tunnel, green grass is always green on the other side. Golden up, pony boys. Let's go get them.
Well, we will see y'all later. Fanboys Unleashed next Friday at 8 p.m. Central. We're going to be in an excellent mood, I hope.
Always
see you then.
Always am.